Date notice number 16/518, which was published in a special issue of the Kenya Gazette on Wednesday, 12th of November 2025. Further, together with the Right Honorable Speaker of the National Assembly, we notified all members of Parliament and the general public of today's special sitting via notices placed in the Daily Nation and the Standard newspapers of Wednesday, 12th November 2025. Accordingly, honorable members, this special sitting is properly convened. I thank you.
Your Excellency, Honorable Dr. William Samoei Ruto, CGH, President of the Republic of Kenya and Commander-in-Chief of the Kenya Defense Forces, the Right Honorable Amason Kingi, EGH MP, Honorable Speaker of the Senate, Honorable Members of Parliament, members of the Diplomatic Corps, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Article 1321B of the Constitution requires the President to address the nation once every year and at any other time. Further, Article 1321C of the Constitution requires the President to, once every year, report in an address to the nation on measures taken and progress achieved in the realization of our national values. Additionally, Article 1321C3 of the Constitution provides that the President shall submit a report for debate to the National Assembly on the progress made in fulfilling the international obligations of the Republic. In this regard, honorable members, by way of a message to the House, His Excellency the President conveyed his desire to address a special sitting of the Houses of Parliament today, 20th November 2025. Therefore, pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order 22 of the National Assembly Standing Orders, by Gazette Notice number 1651, which was published in the Kenya Gazette on 12th November 2025, and indeed as also notified to all members and the general public by way of newspaper notification published on 12th November 2025, I gave notice of this special sitting of Parliament to the members of the National Assembly. Accordingly, honorable members, this special sitting is properly convened. Your Excellency, honorable members, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is the custom of Parliament to recognize invited guests seated in our galleries. I therefore wish to recognize the following guests who are seated in the Speaker's row. Her Excellency Rachel Ruto, First Lady of the Republic of Kenya, and other members of the First Family. His Excellency, the Honorable Professor Kithure Kindiki, EGH, the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya. The Honorable Musalia Mudavadi, EGH, the Prime Cabinet Secretary and Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Foreign Affairs and Diaspora Affairs. Your Excellency, honorable members, also present this afternoon is the Chief Justice and President of the Supreme Court, Honorable Lady Justice Martha Koome, EGH. She is accompanied by the Deputy Chief Justice and Vice President of the Supreme Court, Honorable Lady Justice Philomena Mwilu, EGH, Honorable Justice Daniel Musinga, CBS Presiding Judge, Court of Appeal, Honorable Justice Oscar Angote, MBS, Presiding Judge of the Environment and Land Court, and Honorable Justice Brian Ongaya, EBS, Judge of the Employment and Labor Relations Court. We are also honored to have in our midst the immediate former Speakers of the Houses of Parliament, the Honorable Francis Ole Kaparo, the Honorable Ekwe Ethro, and the Honorable Kenneth Lusaka, EGH, the Governor of Bungoma County, and Clerk Emeritus of the National Assembly, Ambassador Michael Sialai, CBS. Also in the gallery, we have the Chairperson of the Council of Governors, who is also the Governor of Wajir County, the Honorable Ahmed Abdullahi, and the Honorable Johnson Sakaja, Governor of Nairobi City County. May I also accord special recognition to all cabinet secretaries present, and particularly acknowledge 5 of them who are former ranking members of the Houses of Parliament, namely Honorable Aden Duale, EGH, former leader of the majority party in the National Assembly, Honorable Kipchumba Murkomen, EGH, former Senate Majority Leader, Honorable John Badi, EGH, and Honorable Opio Wandai, EGH, both former leaders of the minority party in the National Assembly, and the Honorable Alice Wahome, EGH. If Honorable Mutai Kagwe is present, is also a former member of the House, I acknowledge him. I also acknowledge principal secretaries and members of the diplomatic corps, heads of constitutional commissions, and independent offices and state corporations present. You are all welcome to Parliament. Your Excellency, I wish to make a special welcome to Parliament and mention the Chief of the Kenya Defence Forces, General Daniel Kahariri, and the respective service commanders, the Inspector General of Police, and other leaders of our disciplined forces who are seated at the Speaker's row. Parliament deeply appreciates your outstanding contribution to the national defense, security, and distinguished service to our nation. To all invited guests, we say, Karibu Bunge. Your Excellency, honorable members, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I wish to draw your attention to the officer standing to the right of the chamber in green. He is the Chief Sergeant at Arms of the National Assembly, Mr. Aloisio Lekulo, OGW. Your Excellency, this special mention of this gallant son of Kenya is for the reason that he comes from the smallest community in our nation, the El Molo community, a community which, according to our last census, numbers just about 500. He has risen through the ranks as a high school teacher, as a DO, and competitively employed in Parliament in the year 2006 in the Sergeant's office, rising to become the Chief Sergeant at Arms. Today is his last day on duty, having served diligently in public service. The National Assembly had a special session where we paid tribute to him, and we thank him for the distinguished service he has rendered to the nation and wish him well. Your Excellency, honorable members, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it's now my singular honor and privilege to invite His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Kenya and Commander-in-Chief of the Defense Forces to address this special sitting of Parliament. Your Excellency, you're most welcome.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Speakers of the National Assembly and Senate, the Honorable Members of the National Assembly and Senate, the Chief Justice and the leadership of the Judiciary, Cabinet Secretaries, Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, fellow citizens, ladies and gentlemen. 2 years ago, when I delivered my first State of the Nation address, I had a vision to sell. Today, I have a story to tell. A story written not in the quiet offices or the comfort of boardrooms, but out in the blazing sun of our farms, in the dust of construction sites where our affordable homes now rise, and in the grit of our community health workers, doctors, medical professionals who refuse to surrender in the quest for universal health coverage. It is written in the steady hum of our factories, in the determination of millions daring to dream and finance their vision through the Hustler Fund, in the courage of our young people working on housing sites, in the Climate Works program, in the digital ecosystem, and in the bravery of those who, looking beyond our borders, have sought livelihoods abroad to sustain families back home. A story of sacrifice, a story of sweat, a story of progress that has not come easy. It is a story you can see in the numbers, feel in the homes, and trace in the lives transformed across our republic. A story whose facts are available for all to examine, except perhaps for the cynical who have no facts. Today, the evidence is clear, evidence of promises made and promises kept. In just 3 years, we have built not monuments of words, but foundations of progress. And yet, even with these achievements, I am convinced that this is only but the beginning. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, as I prepared this address, I reflected deeply on the long road we have traveled as a nation. 62 years shaped by struggle, sacrifice, hardship, triumph, and milestones that have affirmed our spirit. From that reflection came one undeniable truth. We have made commendable progress, but Kenya still punches way below its true weight. This nation has the talent, the resources, and the spirit not just to improve, but to leap and to make the transition from a developing country to a developed one within our lifetime. That is why I speak today with full conviction that history has summoned this generation, our generation, at such a time as this, to a higher purpose. Some eras are shaped by events. Others are defined by the decisions a nation makes. And today, Kenya is called to make such a decision, to finish the journey our forebears began, and finally turn our long-held potential into lived reality. To do this, we must cast off the prevailing mindset of being content with the average. We must step beyond the comfort of the familiar and the ordinary and reach with courage, clarity, and conviction for nothing less than excellence and greatness. Therefore, as we examine the achievements of the past 3 years, results that have laid a firm foundation for equality of opportunity and a nation where no one is left behind, today I will also place before you not just a vision, but a national project that is realistic, grounded, and entirely within our reach. A vision not just to grow, but to transform. A roadmap not merely to move forward, but to rise from developing to developed, to rise from potential to reality, to rise from promise to prosperity, to rise from the third to the first world, to rise finally into the Kenya we have long imagined, the Kenya we deserve. For long, our ambition was held hostage by small thinking and ordinary expectations. But that era must now be confined to the past. Today, we stand on the threshold of something far greater, a moment in which we can say that our parents dreamed of and what our children yearn for, we will accomplish in our lifetime. As we know, this is achievable because others have done it before. I have often spoken of the Asian tigers, South Korea, Singapore, Hong Kong, Malaysia. And by the way, members, the Prime Minister of Malaysia will be here this weekend. Countries that at independence were our peers in nearly every measurable way. They had no extraordinary resources. They were not superhuman. They simply had the courage to make bold, disciplined, deliberate choices. They invested in their people, demanded excellence, and refused to be trapped in the limitations of their circumstances. They refused to make peace with mediocrity. Today, they stand as first world economies. If they could rise, so can Kenya. It can be done. Let me repeat. It can be done. Later in this address, I will set out the strategic choices, the reforms we will deepen, the sectors we will unlock, and the investments we will prioritize to move Kenya to the next level. I say all this not as a personal badge of honor, but as a recognition of what we have achieved together, the Kenyan people, the leadership in all arms of government, and across all political formations. Honorable members, the last 3 years have not been easy. We have agreed, sometimes disagreed, and at times those disagreements have carried great cost. We have compromised, we have confronted hard truths, and we have endured storms none of us invited. But we all take comfort that it has not been for nothing, for this is how far we have come. At a time like this, in 2022, Kenya was in distress. Inflation had soared almost to double digits. A fuel shortage threatened to paralyze our economy as oil marketers struggled to access dollars. The shilling was in free fall. Foreign reserves had hit historic lows. Debt service consumed more than half of our revenues. Confidence, both local and foreign, had waned. International analysts warned that it was no longer a question of if, but when Kenya would default. Within that context, we acted. We restored fiscal discipline. We eliminated wasteful subsidies. We rationalized public expenditure. We strengthened revenue collection and placed our economy on a path of recovery and sustainability. Inflation, which stood at 9.6% in 2002, in 2022, has steadily declined to 4.6% as of last month, bringing much needed relief to households. The shilling, once in perilous downward spiral, has stabilized at 129 to the dollar for nearly 2 years, a direct consequence of prudent monetary policy and disciplined fiscal management. Our successful Eurobond redemption signaled to the world that Kenya honors its obligations. 3 years ago, Kenya was ranked the 8th largest economy in Africa with a GDP of $115 billion. Today, our GDP has increased to $136 billion, moving us up to become the 6th largest economy on the continent, according to IMF. This steep rise, ladies and gentlemen, is not accidental. It is the product of deliberate choices, disciplined execution, and strategic reforms that have strengthened our economy and unlocked its potential. Our foreign reserves have surpassed $12 billion, the highest in independent Kenya. This has restored certainty, cushioned our economy from external shocks, and restored investor confidence. International markets have taken note. Just this week, 14 of the world's leading financial institutions, including Citigroup, JP Morgan, Standard Chartered, and Goldman Sachs, projected that Kenya's economy will expand by between 5 and 5.8% in 2026. This confidence is anchored in solid fundamentals: lower credit costs, rising exports, improved household spending driven by low inflation, and a broadly stable macroeconomic environment. Standard & Poor's has upgraded Kenya's sovereign credit rating from B- to a firm B, our first upward revision in many years, signaling renewed international confidence. This upgrade lowers our risk profile